Hello folks, William here. Today's interview is a very special one because it will mark the start of a new segment on my channel that I plan to explore over time, one about New Zealand filmmaker Peter Jackson. Jackson is well known for the Middle-earth movies, which I love, but I'm a fan of all the movies he's directed pre and post Lord of the Rings. From Bad Taste, which is a splatter movie, to The Frighteners, a ghost horror comedy. Also Michael J. Fox's last movie in live action, and the last movie Peter Jackson directed before Fellowship of the Ring. This movie is like a piece of history. I'd love to review everything that Peter Jackson has made. I'm not sure if I'll be able to have first-hand behind-the-scenes stories for all of Jackson's output that aren't already documented elsewhere, but today's interview is a great experience. I spoke to Jim Fyfe, who played the ghost of Stuart in The Frighteners.
Give me a cheeseburger!
Based on this discussion, I think Jim regarded himself as more of a stage actor, a live performer, less of a TV or a movie actor, although from what I've seen him in, from The Frighteners to The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as a guest character, he's really great, likeable, and very comedic. I enjoy all that.
Okay, coming. Hold your horses.
Hey, how you doing, Vincent?
Welcome to my tent, Sergeant, sir. How you doing there, buddy?
The Frighteners is probably my favourite of Jackson's early to mid-career films, in front of Heavenly Creatures and Bad Taste. For my own enjoyment, I mean, although those films are really great and special too, in very different ways. This video was great, as Jim is great to have a chat with. First when I emailed him and got some more insight into the making of the movie, but then also when we spoke on video. Also it was a chance for me to practice my dodgy New Zealand accent, as we'll get into, just for enjoyment.
You dirty bastard.
On a more serious note, I'm on somewhat of a quest to see 4K Blu-rays of all of Peter Jackson's movies from beginning to end, which The Frighteners has a special release of, although not under his supervision, I don't think, rather Universal Pictures, which is different compared to his hands-on involvement in restoring Lord of the Rings to 4K. So it's nice that Jackson has the means to restore his work down under in New Zealand, in conjunction with other projects. This interview was recorded in March 2024, and it's coming out way later due to other projects slowing it down. Although, Mr. Fyfe, I finished my homework assignment. Here we are. Yeah, funnily enough, Jim isn't acting any longer. He teaches history at college level.
Back east somewhere.
Although it was fun to look back on The Frighteners, as Jim had a great time making it. Just as much as myself and others in its cult following had a great time watching it. Jim, your performance was rich and memorable. Memorably goofy, too. It's the perfect translation of Peter Jackson's vision. Also, Weta Digital and or Weta Workshop. If you're watching this video, keep watching till the end, then check your archives and give me a call, also call Jim Fyfe.
We've got a big order to fill!
So without further ado, let's talk to Jim Fyfe today. So hi Jim, how are you?
I'm good, William. How are you?
I'm doing really well, yeah. It's 20 past 10 at night back here in Scotland, so yeah, dark out.
Yeah. So, you want to talk about The Frighteners, I think.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'd really love to. I want to talk about The Frighteners, and it's just really cool to meet one of the cast members. Like, it's Stuart.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Not as blue as I appear in the film, nor am I transparent, but it is me.
Yeah. But I've got some questions about your experiences working on The Frighteners. But, the thing is, I had this idea. I'm going to start this new segment on the YouTube channel that I have, talking a little bit about Peter Jackson's movies because, something I know something I know quite a bit about. I don't know if I can say that, but no, I'm a fan, so...
Sure.
But no, the story is, so the preface to the meeting we're doing is that Peter Jackson has done, restored in 4K on Blu-ray, the Middle-earth movies that he made, the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies, of course. And I believe that with the tech he was using on those to upscale them, I think he's going to start to do that with his earlier projects that he did way back when. And I thought, I wonder if The Frighteners would get that treatment. And I'm not actually sure.
Right.
But I thought one way or another, I thought it could be good to talk to somebody who's worked on it and just try and, give a little more, I say, exposure to this movie, because it's one that it did okay when it came out, and I think it's only ever done much better since, because
Right.
I think people discovered it because if you're a fan of Peter Jackson's work from Fellowship of the Ring onwards, you might be like, I wonder what he did before that.
Mm-hmm.
So that movie, along with, his previous stuff, has really come back into form. But yeah, so that's how this is happening.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
Box office doesn't mean that much to me. Lovely to have people say they enjoyed it. Biggest tragedy would be to make a film that I didn't feel proud of.
I think, I'm almost ashamed to admit this. I think The Frighteners came out in 96.
Yeah.
96. So this would be the 29th anniversary of it.
Or is it? Because this is the thing. Because that movie came out. If it came out in 96, it came out the year I was born. So I'm, that's the. I know. I'm sorry.
I don't remember if it was 95 or 96. I knew it was in there somewhere. So anyway, I figured that, this would have something to do with that. There's an anniversary for it coming up. It's hard to believe it's been 30 years, but it has.
No, it's crazy. But no, it's one that, because it was released on Laserdisc, and that's kind of like the DVDs that I have some stuff, from the Frighteners in the corner. I'll get that. But no, the DVDs I have are transferred from the Laserdiscs, and the same with the Blu-ray that I also have here. I'll just get that now.
Sure.
Yeah, so we got a few Frighteners goodies just here that I have. So I've got the DVD here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder if, because with the poster, that they have, there's like a scene in the movie, like 2/3 of the way in or something, that's kind of like that with Jake Busey.
Yep.
So I don't, you don't know what the story is behind that, that sort of a face against the spandex or whatever that is.
I don't. It's a very Peter Jackson image, so I'm going to guess that he had a lot of input on it.
Tell you what, it's very Nightmare on Elm Street, with Freddy Krueger against the spandex as he reaches through the wall in the original movie. Could very well have been influential. I know Peter Jackson wrote or co-wrote a script for a Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. It didn't get picked up or used in any way, although it was his first foray into working with New Line Cinema before Lord of the Rings, haha. But yeah, back to the Frighteners.
The film he had done right before the Frighteners was Heavenly Creatures, which was, I don't know if it was Kate Winslet's debut, but it was a brilliant film. And I saw it, I went to see it, and it showed, Peter Jackson. And I said to my wife, I think I'm going to audition for this guy later this week. And that was him. And the film, the film blew my mind. It was so great. And then it was great to meet him. So I met him that week. So anyway, I think that's a very Peter Jackson image. I'm going to guess either the idea came from him or they did it themselves.
It could be. I think there is like a behind the scenes, thing talking about ghost stories, and there's like a more, with their personal experiences, I suppose, in stuff like that. And I think that could be like a toned down version of stuff that stuff that they might have even experienced, just the kind of a face,
Like quite a terrifying look.
Like, we have got a poltergeist.
We have got a poltergeist.
Yeah, but no, what we'll do, talking of Heavenly Creatures, because that leads into a couple of things. We've got question 1 about that. But no, it's weird, because with most DVDs, it's just got like one space for one disc in there, even though we have, I'll turn this over, even though we have 3.
Wow.
On spindle, because there's the same with the Laserdisc, how I believe there's the theatrical version in one of these things in my hand here, as well as the director's cut, and then bonus material, all that's ported over from there. So it's like, we've got it here on the 3. Honestly, the way I held those DVDs, it was like I was doing a coin trick or something.
That was misdirection. You were watching here, should have been watching there. Next one, sleight of hand, jumped across. That's the way magic works.
But no, the thing with Blu-ray now is because it's more capacity on there. So with the Blu-ray disc, you know, same cover, a little smaller. We've got the blue case. You know, we've got just the one disc there. So we've got all the information.
So all that information on one disc.
Yeah, which I do prefer, and like the quality's better, like just like the texturing of the makeup and the stuff that they were able to do at the Weta workshop and Weta Digital as well, you know. Yeah.
This movie is very wet and atmospheric, and it has just a kind of a feel about it.
As well as that, we were talking about Heavenly Creatures. There's a photo here in this gem I was able to find. This is a book I really love. It's Peter Jackson, A Filmmaker's Journey. There's lots of cards in there that I put in there.
Yeah.
I was away on holiday and I found secondhand a copy of this for 1 pence.
It's clearly gotten a lot of attention from you.
Yeah. This
We've really gotten every whatever unit of pence is smaller than pence. You've got every one of those. You've got more than your pence worth.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. Actually, I think this version of it, because it was quite a bit more than that. I think the secondhand copy that I found, which this also is, I think this is an old library book. And I found it for a couple of pounds sterling, a couple dollars, the equivalent yours would be. But I think I decided, I think I was broke at the end of the holiday. So I was like, what I'll do, I'll turn to the internet, or I got my phone. I was like, oh, you can get this for 1 single pence, or I'll just get this one right here. Oh gee. But let's look. This one originally was £20, so yeah.
That's a markdown. That's a value.
Yes, yeah. Oh, one of my favourite books by Brian Sibley, who's also featured on the Lord of the Rings appendices, actually.
It told you what happened.
Pretty cool. But yeah, those bookmarks are for marking out all the schlocky B movies. And stuff that I haven't seen that Sibley brings up in passing that I'd love to see. Like Lawnmower Man. Would not have heard about that movie if not for this book. Thanks, Brian Sibley. Ooh, but no, what I was getting to, talking of Heavenly Creatures, there's some great pictures in this book. It's largely text-based, but there's a photo here. It's of Michael J. Fox, actually. Also, he's with Kate Winslet and Melanie Linsky, who's the co-lead of that movie there. You can probably find a color photo of that, but there's the three of them there.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because there was a good bit of overlap, I think, with both projects, with the writing of one and then moving into another one.
Yeah, I don't know if that photo was taken in New Zealand or not, but it may have been that they were in LA doing promo and Michael might have been meeting with Peter. I don't know.
It's true, though, or Toronto or somewhere, because I think I could be wrong. I think I was rereading this bit of the book, and I think it went to Toronto International Film Festival, but most likely, yeah. And there's a photo here of yourself, Peter, and Chi McBride, actually. So we've got you here. There you guys are.
As I told you in our emails going back and forth, I just had a ton of fun making this film. And, everybody in it, everybody who worked on it was really friendly and great. And it's just a very, very happy memory for me.
Yeah, no, it certainly came across that way in the behind the scenes, which I know Peter Jackson really likes to do.
It's like being a magician. It's like being a kid in a toy shop in a way.
Because that movie, we'll get to the questions, of course, but because The Frighteners was released through Universal Pictures, as I'm sure you remember that, they were involved in that one. And so immediately after, when The Frighteners was completed, he'd had a deal with Universal to do a remake of King Kong for 1997, and that project fell through, unfortunately.
Charlie McClellan, visual effects producer, came in and he had the schedule up on the board. He just grabbed the schedule and just ripped it off.
He was able able to go back to it after Return of the King, and we had the 2005 King Kong, of course. But yeah, tears were shed that day when the plug was pulled on that one.
There were tears. Some people were really quite upset.
For many of us, it was our first big film project. We invested ourselves completely in it.
I remember being at Peter's house because we went there when we first got down there. He had a dinner for everybody, and you also need like a day to just sort of get over your jet lag. But I remember he had like a workroom which had all of his fanboy stuff in it, and he had one of the original King Kong figurines, and it wasn't that big, but I remember him showing it to me, and we both turned into 12-year-old boys for 5 minutes just looking at the original King Kong thing. It was just amazing. It was so cool.
We'll pretend that he's holding Fay Ray.
Total magic. These two puppets gone from each other for 72 years. All of a sudden they're back.
Yeah. So Peter, as I'm sure you know, is not only a filmmaker, he's a film fan. And that's one of the things that makes him so fun to work with.
100%, yeah. I believe that Peter was 9 years old when he'd seen the original King Kong, which is his favorite movie of all time. And it's funny because I remember seeing the 2005 King Kong, which I think is the first of his movies that I'd ever seen, because I was a little bit too young for Lord of the Rings. But I say too young, I just was never taken to the big screen to see them. I was too busy watching Harry Potter, but I went back around again. But no, one of Peter Jackson's favorite movies is King Kong, and then I think his version of it might be one of my favorite movies ever. Just seeing it when I was young and being compelled by it.
Yeah, I really like that film too.
Yeah, no, completely. But there was a story I was gonna tell about that, but we'll get there. I've lost it. Okay. But yeah, but did you ever see? Because I have a copy of this other book here. It's a novelization of the Frighteners. But did you ever see that?
I've never seen that.
Well, I'll come closer again and show you. But this is from the time. So we've got John Astin there, and we've got Michael J. Fox.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, but the weird thing is this is by Michael John, who adapted the script, but it was adapted from an earlier version of the script that Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh had written, and Peter had seen they've done a book version of it, and he picked it up, started reading it, and to his shock, it wasn't an adaptation of the movie; it was an adaptation of that earlier script, which differed quite a bit.
Wow.
The novelization, I realized with horror, it was based on one of our early drafts of the script. It doesn't bear much resemblance to what we filmed, but it is interesting.
I had no idea. Never seen this, never heard of it.
It's crazy. No. And to my dismay, I didn't finish reading this one, but we'll get back to it. No, so that's my mistake. I should have read this, done more homework before this interview.
It's okay.
Yeah, tell you what, maybe we could do I'll reread this and we'll just rework the story and make you the lead, make Stuart the main character.
I'm sure that's the logical place to go.
Yes.
Take my secondary character and make the movie about him.
Well, sometimes you love the secondary characters more, or I do. I'm just I know less about them and I find them more interesting, therefore, just put them in something else, put them forward.
Yeah.
Now, with your legendary debut moment, your debut line in The Frighteners, which I'll recreate that now. I have my glasses, my Egon Spengler glasses. Yeah, wherein you're driven home, you come out of the back of the trunk, you're like, oh, I think I'm going to throw up.
I think I'm going to throw up.
Right. Oh yeah, no, it's just this comedic vision. That's cool.
Did a great job. When they do the remake, if they call me, I'll have them call you.
Okay. No, that'll be cool. That'll be fun. Just for the fun of it.
Sure.
Should anybody down under see what I just did, just call me. But yeah, the VFX for that, pretty crazy, just the cartoony kind of style of what was going on there. We took Jim's footage and we did a match move on it, and just to make it, I don't know. Anyway, but no, so Jim, we've kind of gone for the first question, but do you remember auditioning for The Frighteners? Because how did you hear about this movie?
I was living in LA. I moved to LA in 94. So this would be like I'd been there maybe a year. And I had an agent and just went in for this audition. And I think I got a call back because then that's when I saw Heavenly Creatures. So I knew I was going in to meet the director. And they were looking for people who could improvise. So I'd done stand up and I'd done improv for a long time. So I was ready to go. And I met Peter, just really liked him. Very nice guy, low key, not Hollywood at all. And we hit it off.
We just hit it off immediately.
And then I had another callback with a couple of actors, a couple of African-American actors, one of whom was Shy McBride, and the other of whom was this very nice guy, Glenn something. He was in the Keanu Reeves movie Speed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was, and I think they were looking to see which of these two guys I vibed better with. It was, Shy McBride. I don't know if you've ever interviewed him or met him, but he's hilarious.
No, I mean, who am I? Although I would really love to, though maybe Shy's too big a star now.
He's just got a huge charm and personality, and we hit it off right away, and we were improvising, right away. So it felt good. And then I don't remember how soon thereafter I got the actual offer, but it was pretty quick. So the whole process was maybe a few weeks, wasn't really super drawn out, but yeah, that was the process.
Yeah, no, from what I understand, because on the home media stuff I've got there, because there are like talking head interviews with yourself and just about everybody, I think they'd set upon you, they'd chosen you pretty clearly.
We found Jim Fyfe pretty quickly.
But I think they couldn't just tell you, at least not at first, and that's how, I think that's how that tends to work.
They knew that they wanted me, but they couldn't actually tell me that. So I just kind of had to keep coming back.
But so they'd settled on you, and they're like, we need to find someone who can be a comedic foil to Jim, and by that token kind of work out what these characters were going to be like. Because it's interesting you said that, talking of Shy McBride, or is it Chai or is it Shy?
It's Shy because it's an American thing with, it's a short version of Chicago.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then when you shorten it, you lengthen the I, so some people call Chicago Chi-Town, but his name was Shy McBride. I at least I think that's why it was. We spent a lot of time together, so I'm sure I'm saying that for a reason. I think that is it. He had spent a lot of time as a musician, so I think that was from that phase of his life.
But I think with Shy, I need to get that right. With Shy, he wondered about actually doing the movie because he was looking at the script and he felt that his potential role was kind of underwritten and, in his words, a little stereotypical, which he said himself. So I feel okay saying that.
I thought that Cyrus's role was a little stereotypical, a little underwritten. I wasn't going all the way over to New Zealand to do 2 lines.
But
originally the dynamic between the two characters was different too. Originally, Stuart was more like the lead complainer.
No, I can complain too,
And, kind of like just always kind of carping at Frank.
The boy can't help getting stuck. The guy's anal retentive. I'm very upset. Now, can someone please help me?
And that, Shy McBride's character was just kind of like, yeah. So then, I said that on the set, I feel like this is not really, there's more here. So we flipped it, and in a way, he became more the lead guy, sort of plotting things and moving things forward.
All right, man, this is it. We gotta be hard. No mercy. We're going in like professionals, like Charles Bronson. We don't stop till the screaming starts. You dig? I'm with you.
And I just my character just became more neurotic.
That was a headshot, Frank! He could have killed me!
And complaining.
That fellow takes us totally for granted. And we're supposed to be his business partners. What a joke. No more Mr. Nice Guy. I'm gonna get rough. You talking to me, Stuart? No, please don't reach through me when I'm trying to speak to you.
Yeah. And I decided that it would be great to have him, have health problems, even though he's dead.
Yes, yes.
A happy ghost is a productive ghost. Bear in mind, Frank, that we've given you 5 years of loyal service.
No, I think that the backbone of the whole thing was ad-libbing and improv.
Calling Jesse, we're gonna have the African American Apparition Coalition. Ain't nothing worse than a bunch of brothers that's pissed off that's already dead.
Find me some other black ghosts. African American Apparition Coalition, AAAC. Nothing worse than a bunch of pissed off brothers that's already dead.
Yeah, he felt that his role was underdone, but the idea was, oh, no, Shai, what we want you to do is add more to this.
We want him to contribute to the script. If he doesn't think it's funny enough now, that's okay, because it's our intention of getting as much input from him and making it funnier.
And, that's how that could make it work. And I think that's what swayed him so as to do it.
Once I saw Heavenly Creatures, I said, maybe I might want to work with this guy. So
and thank goodness, because the chemistry is really good with the three of you guys,
Yeah.
Peter Jackson once said that if I didn't get the job, he was just going to take everything that I said in the auditions and just put it in the script. You dirty bastard.
Before I get on to talking about John Astin, I'll tell you a story probably nobody else will tell you because it didn't happen to them. My agent also represented Gerald McRaney, who is an American actor who's done a lot of television. He's a really, really good actor. And he was going in to audition for The Judge.
Yeah.
And so my agent said, listen, will you go up to Gerald McRaney's house and talk to him? Because, he's never done any improv and they want him to improv in the audition. So just talk to him. And I was great. So I had a very nice afternoon talking to Gerald McRaney, who is really, he's a fantastic actor. Mm-hmm. And he was just sort of like, well, what do they want me to do? And I said, it's just improv. You just sort of have a conversation. You just agree with what the person just said and then add to it and then just keep going, and he was very nice about it. But I guess he didn't, obviously didn't get the role. So that was a fun little afternoon. And then John Astin, truly not only one of the nicest actors I've ever met, one of the nicest people I've ever met, was truly just a genuine, sweet, friendly, very smart, but also very open and curious guy.
It wasn't until we did the first makeup tests that I began to see and feel exactly who this character was.
I really, really had a blast hanging out with him. And of course, he was Gomez Addams. It was just amazing.
No, I was going to say that's probably off the strength of why someone like him would be considered for this. Or I don't know if Peter Jackson had an idea wouldn't it be really good to have John Astin in this movie because of what he's done? Because I know if we can talk about Jeffrey Combs with interviews like this, it's like, okay, I've got to ask questions that Jim Fyfe is going to probably have the answer to because it pertains to the guy. Because you might just be like, well, I don't know, I didn't see them, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there at that time.
No, I mean, there are lots of people that are in that film. I've never met Jake Busey. There are a couple of people that are major roles in the film, and I never met them because we would come in and shoot. We would shoot, we'd rehearse with Michael.
Yeah.
But then we'd step out of the shot, obviously, and then they'd, do their thing. And then we were always what they would do on a day when it was raining, which it does a lot in New Zealand. So they would go, oh, raining today. So let's go into the studio and we'll bang out some of the Stuart and, oh crap, I'm drawing a blank on Shai's character's name.
Cyrus,
right.
I had full disclosure. I had to look it up too. I was like, oh yes.
Cyrus, because I just think of him as Shy McBride.
Yes.
Anyway, we were the rain cover, so we would shoot our stuff matching other shots, in a studio, and the studio would be wherever they happened to be on location. They would just throw up a blue screen and shoot our stuff anyway. So there's a lot of people in the movie I've never met.
There are moments like that, like the funeral scene, which is, there's this, I don't want to say it's an obnoxious close-up of mud, but there's a close-up of mud and the horizon is right there. I thought was that done deliberately? Is that a special kind of mud? And I've no idea, but it's probably just no, that's just the graveyard in Littleton, and that's why it and it looked like that because it was raining that day and we were filming here that day, because I think that particular scene didn't have that scripted that it was wet, but that's just what they adapted to, and besides it kind of fits the vibe of the scene. because it's a funeral and this is like a dark comedy movie, but you have to have some rounding out tonally, you know.
It's interesting that you talk about tone, because I think one of the things that people have appreciated about it since then, and that people maybe didn't get at the time, was how many different tones there are in that film. Not like Ghostbusters, because like Ghostbusters is a great movie. The scariest stuff in Ghostbusters is still a little bit comedic.
What a lovely singing voice you must have.
Whereas the scariest stuff in this movie is actually scary.
What the hell are you staring at?
Love it when you do that thing.
And then it's got the layer of real life horror of like a serial killer, you know, so it has a lot of layers to it, and or a lot of tones. And when I finally got the offer and I read it, I said to myself, I think this is going to be the next Ghostbusters. This is incredible, because it's got all this stuff. And I think it works as a film, but I think at the time, people just kind of weren't ready for it.
It starts comedy, turns thriller. People were confused. That's a narrow mind. It gave me more of an experience. I don't like it. I don't understand that way of thinking.
Additionally, it was originally supposed to be released at Halloween.
Yeah.
And the studio decided to release it in the summer, which was dumb.
Yes. I got a thing to say about that. There's a lot we can talk about, but
Say it.
Yeah, well, I'll say it now. But I think from what I understand is that I think Universal Pictures saw the rough cut of the movie or wherever they were at that point, and they were actually so happy with it that they actually moved the release earlier, because they're like, oh no, this is great, we'll do it here. It's like, no, this was supposed to be a Halloween movie, you know, released around that time in the fall.
Autumnal.
And on top of that, it was supposed to be PG-13.
PG-13.
But they kept going, they tried it and they kept coming back with an R rating. And it's like, well, we might as well take advantage of that by having Jeffrey Combs' head get blown off and you see his spirit. Whereas previously he was just going to be shot by D. Wallace Stone and fly comedically through the wall. I'm actually glad that was his death scene, because it's memorable, but they thought, okay, like the style and the time of year, and yeah, not good. I think that hurt it. I think that's why it didn't do as well as it could have.
Agreed.
But still.
Here we are.
Here we are, yeah, it's so cool. But with John Astin, you know, going back to that, because we answered question 2 about what it was like working with John, what I mean by that is, because obviously you guys were playing ghost characters, and you have scenes with Michael J. Fox, you all do, and you all do with one another, but there's like the technical aspect of it where Michael is really there in camera, and you're also really there in camera, but those scenes are stitched together later, so you're not necessarily acting at the same time, you know.
A lot of my work with them, they weren't on camera. Yet there wasn't a day when those guys didn't really bust their humps.
It's us, Frank. Pretty scary, huh?
Yeah, but also with John, because yeah, he's a, you know, I believe he's still with us. I checked with the internet. I know, it's crazy, it's weird, but seeing him out of makeup in the bonus features with his big smile, and just, he's a really sweet man, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Judge was difficult. We wanted personality to project through the rubber.
This town is in deep trouble.
Yeah, his Judge makeup was done by Rick Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Who, you know, Rick, I should stop talking about people as if I'm on a first name basis with them, because who am I? But Rick Baker has a little cameo at the end of King Kong. He's one of the pilots at the end shooting Kong when he's atop the building. I was like, oh, was that him? Because I've seen interviews with Rick Baker, and it's one where you wouldn't know it was him because he had his face covered up. Peter did,
sure.
Obviously had their goggles.
Sure.
But yeah.
Well, Peter, I know, is in the Frighteners. I think he plays like a biker or something.
Yes, yes. But yeah, with Jeffrey Combs, I don't know about John Astin if he really wanted him to be in the film, but I know Peter's a really big fan of Reanimator, and he wanted, I've forgotten the character's name now. Special Agent Milton Dammers, how could I have possibly forgotten? But he wanted Jeffrey Combs in there, and it's like, I wonder where he is, has he got anything going on? And he was able to track him down through agencies. It was like, Jeffrey Combs is in my movie, yes.
Yeah, I know. He was very excited about it. And I got to know Jeff during the shoot as well. He was another really nice guy. Maybe everybody just becomes nice when they go to New Zealand. I don't know. But he was a really nice guy. And, he talked about this movie as being this film he did that for not much money. It was low budget. And, it became this cult thing. And, all the special effects guys and Peter and his buddies were constantly asking him about that. Which I have to confess, I've never seen.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. It's cool. There's the interrogation scene with Michael's character and Jeff's character, and he unveils the metal breastplate that he has underneath, and I think that's the hardest I've ever laughed at anything in any movie ever.
Really?
Yes, yeah. It's like, you can't get me. I'm wearing a metal breastplate.
I'm wearing a lead breastplate.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that might have been in the original script too. So I don't know if maybe because I know they saw a lot of different actors for that part. And a lot of them were more straight actors, just like guys who would play a cop on a cop show. And I don't know if they found out Jeffrey was available and rewrote it for him, or if they had made it that odd, but were trying to cover themselves.
Dammers was a character that Fran and I wrote without imagining an actor in mind, but we knew it had to be someone really good.
Anyway, I'm pretty sure that metal breastplate thing was in the original script.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I'll read the book and I'll report back to you if that's in there.
Find out about it.
Yeah. From what I understand, I think the story is very similar. Like, I was just reading through bits of it, before, but I think it was more from the point of view of the mayor of the town, and there's more of it was like framed differently, but I'll get find your copy for 1 single pence. And we'll proofread that one. But yeah, I think Peter Jackson described the character of Special Agent Dammers, which is Jeff Combs' character, as walking a fine tightrope tonally, of being very, very comedic, but also being tragic. And there's a serious element as well, because he poses a threat to our heroes. And yeah, you have all that. Like, we're going to unfreeze him later. It's like, why would we want to do that?
I'm reviving him at 9 o'clock.
Why would we want to do that?
Listening to the commentary of the Frighteners, Peter tries to stifle his laughter, like, okay, I'm going to have to focus really hard from this point on in the commentary because he's so funny.
It makes me laugh whenever I see him doing this stuff. I think he did it so brilliantly well.
Yeah, very much Peter's Peter's sense of humor.
Yes. Yeah. This is another one that we sort of half went through, but I'll say that, obviously lots of big stars in the movie, some of whom aren't with us now, like Arlie Emery, the drill sergeant, who basically reprised that role from Full Metal Jacket. Arlie Emery, excuse me. I think they were going to have someone else try and do an impression of him, basically, and it's like, well, why don't we just get the actual guy? Like, he was, I think, able to do it. Yep. So they did that, and thank goodness for that, because it's cool. But yeah, Arlie Emery, excuse me, Jeffrey Combs, D. Wallace Stone, Jake Busey, Peter Dobson. I think Michael J. Fox being in the movie was Bob Zemeckis' idea, Robert Zemeckis as producer, because this, I think, was written as a Tales from the Crypt movie. It was supposed to be like shorter, like an anthology kind of a thing, and I think it was given to Robert Zemeckis. I'm probably screwing up this story, and he and others had seen it. Was like, this is actually really, different style. This is great. Maybe we'll make this a movie of its own, and I'll put my money into it. Let's do that, and we'll get Michael because of Back to the Future, And Peter Dobson has a little role in Forrest Gump, which Robert also did, or he has a little cameo. Oh yes, Peter Dobson plays Elvis.
Thank you, ma'am. You ain't nothing but...
And so with Peter Dobson's character in The Frighteners, there's a little wink-wink inside joke to that previous role.
Right.
Anyway, but you didn't really get to meet any of the bigger names in there.
Nope. I spent a lot of time with Michael, with Shy, Jeffrey Combs, Trini Alvarado, and I became very good friends. Trying to think, that's about it. I mean, that was who I spent most of my time. I was there for 10 weeks, and I was with those folks most of the time. I had my wife and my daughter with me, and here's a fun fact. It is the only film in which my late wife ever appeared. She plays the maid in the floating baby scene. She's like the screaming maid. So she did her day on the film, and that was the only film she ever did.
Yeah. No, that's something I'd read. I'm sorry, about that, about, how it's your late wife, and that movie. But no worries, Jim. Was it not also your daughter as well, in there, who's
She was too
sorry.
big for that. She was how old was she? 4? So she was too big to play a baby. Baby. She was supposed to play a little kid in some other scene, but then they rewrote it and it didn't happen. And she cried. She was very disappointed.
There were tears were shed. Yeah, I've seen
Tears before bedtime.
Yeah, nap time, whatever. Yeah. I've seen the bits there, and that leads to another little fun fact about how the real star of this movie is Billy Jackson, Peter's infant son at the time.
We were trying to find a little smiley baby. Fran and I cast our own son.
3-month-old superstar Billy Jackson.
Yeah. Who Billy and Katie, his daughter, his children have been, I think, in little roles in his movies ever since. From then on. Yeah, I was watching the commentary to the last Hobbit movie, and Billy Jackson appears towards the end of that, where he's got a little hat and he's fighting.
Billy Jackson is now like 30 years old.
Roughly, yeah. I think we're the same age. I'm 27. I think Billy's also 27 or something. 28. Right. I have no idea. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, very interesting time.
I know.
Gosh, you didn't have very much hair then, did you? What's that?
This is serious.
Is it you?
But we were talking about Ghostbusters before, and that's why I was wearing this shirt, just to try and with the ghost theme. Like I have no Frighteners shirts, but we'll get them.
I'm sure if there are any, you will find them and you will pay 1 pence for them.
I knew that was coming.
You're getting to know me.
Yeah, I'll get them for 1 single pence.
1 pence? I'm selling for 1 single pence.
Yeah, I could be wrong, Jim, but I think I read it in the book here. Sorry, I'm covering Pete's face. I think I read in the book that I think the Frighteners was intended to try and be another Ghostbusters, or they tried to do something else more comedic like that. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, in Hollywood, after the box office for the Frighteners was the way it was, but Universal. Because he's worked, Peter Jackson, with Universal Pictures a few times, with most recently the Mortal Engines movie, the Frighteners, but also the King Kong remake as well. But do you remember if you had creative input in what your makeup and costumes looked like as a ghost? Because I think in other productions, Peter Jackson has sort of said to the actors, like, you bring your ideas for anything, whatever it might be.
The short answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
I was just so special effects laden, and also I felt I understood that my character was wearing what he would be wearing. It's a college boy in the 20s.
He's dealing with a double major here.
The backstory that I invented was that Stuart failed an exam, and that's what killed him.
Oh,
and so he was I felt at home in the clothes right away. Mm-hmm. They didn't feel like costume; they felt like clothes. Mm-hmm. I never thought about that before, but that's true. That's how I felt. just felt right.
I guess I wondered with Shy McBride, because he has like a Saturday Night Fever kind of the afro, and it was very 70s.
I would like some new clothes. You get to dress nice. Here I am still looking like Link from the Mod Squad.
You died in the 70s. It's a bummer.
And I thought, was that his idea to do that? Because it's, like the movie's satirical, even though it has these darker, like real life things in it, or exaggerated from reality, kind of.
Yes, I remember that the character was written as a 70s guy, kind of like a comment, I thought, on blaxploitation movie, but he wasn't a violent character. It wasn't like he had guns and stuff. So I think it was meant just as like a tribute to the 70s, and black cinema, and that's why Shy's character, the way he did it and revised it, was actually better than what they'd written. It was sharper and it was more true to the period.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Shy, his character, the only thing really is that he had something of a temper, but that was part of the comedy,
You gotta just walk up to Frank, just look him in the eye and just say, Frank, give me what I want, I'ma bust your ass! If I wanted to get shot at every day, I'd move my black ass to Los Angeles.
Where he's just ad-libbing, like reaching into frame, and it's like, we'll use the best thing, where he's talking to the judge, to John Aston's character, and he's just like, fuck you, Judge.
Fuck you, Judge.
We should stop showing these shots because this Laserdisc will be NC-17 if we carry on.
Like that should have just been in the final cut,
Really? Yeah.
Take advantage of the R rating.
Yeah, why not? Go for broke.
Yeah. I wonder if, going back to that, because it was supposed to be PG-13, I wondered if you would have maybe been considered for it based on stuff that you had done in a way, or
if we cast like stand-up comics or guys who have good comic ability, then we're going to get a lot of input into the script, make it funnier.
I guess what I mean by that is because you had D. Wallace Stone, who was in Cujo and E.T., which isn't like a dark film, not all the way through.
The mom from E.T.
But, it's like, we want this kind of actor for this kind of role, but we're going to do it all our ways. So there's like a sly sort of comedic layer to everything.
Good shooting, Ted. And she was so young and beautiful.
I didn't really have much of a resume in film or TV by 1994.
No.
I was based in New York for the first like 8-9 years of my career, and I did theater. So like I did theater and kind of, did okay and got known a bit in theater in New York, and that led to some TV and then movie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was still mostly New York based. So I didn't, I think I'd done maybe one feature film of 2-scene part in Kiss Before Dying with Matt Dillon before I did The Frighteners. So I'd done some TV.
Hi, I'm Jim Fyfe. Want to see a neat trick? Ta-da! See this? Best thing I ever bought.
But I hadn't really done film much at all before. So I don't know, if they were thinking of me as any kind of actor. I think I looked like the character that they saw in their heads when I walked in, because I also wore glasses in those days. So I think I tried to dress to suggest it to some degree, but I think it was just like, oh, that looks how I picture this guy. So I think I was lucky, is my point.
It's possibly that's how they settled on you. It's like, right, we have to scrape around to find other people now.
yeah, exactly. Now they have to, now the hard work begins.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. But thinking, you mentioned TV. Jim, were you in an episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Yes, I was.
Because I was reading IMDb, and I've seen the show all the way through. I meant to rewatch to see if you were there, but
I played an FBI agent in I think it was a 2-part episode where Will witnesses a murder.
I witnessed a murder.
And then they put him into like the witness protection program, like in a redneck hillbilly trailer park.
Floyd Palmer. I'm more like a Malcolm Akbar Mustafa.
It's taken.
And I had, a couple of scenes as an FBI agent.
Now that you mention it, I do remember that story. I just don't remember your character. That's shame on me. But
No, that's quite all right. I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
I got to get out to the club and get my little groove on. Well, the nearest town is Hatred, Mississippi. I can check if there's dancing.
Can I at least call my family in Bel Air?
Absolutely not. Now, they've been informed that you're in the program. They wish you luck.
Oh, gee, what? Oh.
Well, I felt that way a lot watching my own work. Now that I'm not an actor anymore, I can say that. I had, some very wonderful times doing TV and film, but I very seldom felt relaxed in front of the camera. I was more a live act.
Here's Teresa. Okay, there we go. Nice little shot and beer for our guest there. Right, and one for the master of the house.
And now I've been a teacher for 20 years, so, I'm a live act.
Hi, how you doing? Fine, how are you? Fine, how are you? Fine, how are you?
Although briefly, I was a Zoom act during COVID. But I am a live performer.
Do you drive a taxi cab?
And so, I enjoyed my work in the Frighteners, but I didn't look at that and go, man, I'm genius. Look at that. I found my performance watchable, and that was a big milestone for me.
Oh, it was very, very watchable, Jim. It's that thing of, I was going to mention, because I'd seen a podcast interview you did on wrestling this was back in 2020 with it was like a 4-tier kind of interview, and you were bottom right, and I was watching it like, when is Jim going to be talking again? I'm focused on Jim, Not because everyone else wasn't interesting, it really was, but it perhaps because I recognize you, and
Sure.
It's nice. I've sometimes had this where I've seen actors in other things. I'm like, oh, it's that guy,
Well, that's exactly right. I'm a that guy kind of actor.
Yeah. Going back to Ghostbusters, there was a cartoon that they did, Extreme Ghostbusters, in the 90s when everything was extreme. We're the ones to turn to when they get too extreme. And you know who's in that show? Alfonso Ribeiro, who played Carlton on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, so it all came full circle. Yeah, we'll get the full release of Extreme Ghostbusters on Amazon, and go watch that, and go watch the new movie, and go watch The Frighteners, everybody. I know Michael J. Fox actually forgot what movie he was in a few times, because he kept referring to John Astin as Doc, like from Back to the Future.
Really?
Yes, yeah.
Actually say that in some of the takes?
Yeah.
Little crook in the Pony Express, huh, Doc? Whoa! I called him Doc. It's fucking Back to the Future.
Well, he accidentally, there's the bit at the end where Judge gets cut in two, and I think your character and Chai were also there, but you were added in later, but he was supposed to scream, "Judge!" which he does in the final cut. But he accidentally, in rehearsals, he's like, "Doc!" Oh, damn, I yelled Doc again.
Doc! Doc, I did it again. I just go, Doc, I'm Judge.
It's the funniest thing I've seen in the behind the scenes of, like, flubbing your lines. I'm like, oh, that's weird.
Frank, you should disarm. Hairball.
Yeah, it's one of the last things, funny talking about Michael J. Fox, because I'd seen him most recently presenting the BAFTAs in the UK on TV to horribly date this video. In like February 2024 is when that was, or March, something like that. I'm like, oh, what a coincidence. I was emailing Jim Fyfe earlier, and there's Michael J. Fox on the TV. But it's one of the last things he did, I think, because he suffers very badly with Parkinson's now, as I'm sure you're aware.
I think he had been diagnosed right before he started shooting The Frighteners, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd read that after Back to the Future 3, which is, that movie's 91, I think in between scenes he started to feel this little tiny something. But then yes, he had that diagnosis around that sort of a time. Yeah, no.
Well, as I'm sure you can guess, he never said anything about it. He was always just very professional and a really great guy who smoked a lot of Marlboro Light.
Oh, right.
He's a great guy. So
that doesn't spoil anything for me. I'm just like, no, it's fine. That's something people did, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
We gotta talk about cigars.
You're dead. You can't smoke.
You can light them up and blow the smoke in my face.
I'll light up a cigar. I'll blow my lunch in your face.
And, God, what an amazing, second act he's had. The guy, the guy was a major, major TV star.
Yeah.
When he came along in Family Ties in the 80s. Just instantly, like a big deal, a star, a hit, like everywhere. And then he did the thing that not many people could do, which was go from TV to really being a major movie star. And made a few films, and then Back to the Future hit, and it was just, wow, he became even bigger. And then, to have this kind of come along, and he's been dealing with it a long time. Like 30 years. That's and he's done such an amazing job with it. He's kept acting. He's directed. Like, my dad had Parkinson's, and that is a horrible, tough disease to deal with for anybody. But for somebody in the public eye, I really give Michael a lot of credit.
Yeah, and I think it's also helped with his charity work for the condition to try and research more on it. And no, he's an amazing, really amazing man. He's in one of my favorite Disney movies, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, which is, an animated film. And I think he sort of went more for that a little bit, instead of doing face acting, what they call it was like voiceovers. And I was like, oh, is that Michael J. Fox? I thought, of course it was. It's very clearly him. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
Never have, no.
No. The funny thing is, now that we're talking about it, he plays a character named Milo. He's like the main scientist guy on this expedition to Atlantis.
The theory of Atlantis.
And he looks, thinking about it, he looks very much like Stuart does in the Frighteners in that movie, because he has the glasses and he has sort of the hair, kind of the nerd thing going on.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, I played a lot of nerds. I played all the ranges of nerd. Hypochondriac, dead nerd, computer nerd with attitude, computer nerd without attitude, generic nerd, hotel nerd. I really did pretty much all the nerds that there were.
Yeah. Something you didn't do, and this is listed on IMDb, is it says you were in Ghostbusters 2.
That is absolutely correct. I am not in Ghostbusters 2. And I don't know how to go on IMDb and correct that mistake, because I've had people write to me to ask to talk to me about my experience making Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you were in the movie, because that man, I only know this because of the interview that you other guys did on that channel. I'm sorry, I've forgotten it, but I'll link it somewhere up here or something, however YouTube works. But
I think YouTube, it's down here, because it's all below.
Yeah. You can put on-screen cards up in the corner, but correct. Yes, please. Yes. But no, that man, his name is James Fyfe, or Jim Fyfe. And I've seen an interview with James talking about working on it. So I don't know.
I wonder if many people contact him thinking he's me.
Yeah.
Probably not very many.
Yeah. But I mean, no, he was one of, he basically played one of the ghosts of, there's the Scoleri brothers, which was a spoof on the Blues Brothers. If you look at them, it becomes obvious. But also the Jogger ghost, whom Bill Murray traps in The Trap. So yeah, two little roles. And those are very memorable scenes from that movie. But anyway, that does happen on IMDb sometimes. My favorite, though, and this is just in hearsay, I'd have to look it up, is there's a man who, it's in Terminator, in the first one, where everyone remembers the "I'll be back" scene.
I'll be back.
But no one ever gives credit to the desk clerk. He had to tell someone he was going to be back.
True. That's true.
Like, who is that guy?
I'm pretty sure if I had lived in LA at that time, I would have had a call back for that part, but not been cast in it.
Yeah, and you would have turned into a rubber dummy when Arnold or whoever it is drives through the police station and hits the desk.
I would have loved to have played a part where I would turn into a rubber dummy and then in the reverse shot.
Yes.
I would love that.
Jim Cameron knew what he was doing. Forgive me. I know in the UK,
which is where I'm from,
I know it's pronounced Clark, desk Clark, but for the sake of Jim Fyfe and my American viewership, As I know I'm being watched overseas, I'm saying clerk. Besides, it's spelt clerk. There's no A in there. But yeah, his name, the desk clerk, his name is Bruce Kerner, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the IMDb story. I don't know if he continued to act, but he ended up being a producer on The Parkers and A Different World.
Huh.
Unless that was a different Bruce Kerner and they accidentally listed them all under the same Bruce Kerner, you know, because again, that happens on IMDb sometimes. But in your case, it's just a typo where it's just a different man, similar name. Yeah, it's crazy. But talking about interactions, I think Peter Jackson knew about Michael's Parkinson's, and that's why the shoot was adjusted, I believe, a little bit, just to get stuff done. Because I think I've heard, or I think I've read, that the movie was shooting for 6 months, I think, but I could be wrong.
The Frighteners shot in New Zealand for about 6 months, which is a very long shoot. I mean, often a movie takes 3 or 4 months to shoot.
Yeah, that would make sense because, like I say, I was down there 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It was not, I think, I know that they made it in New Zealand because it was much, much cheaper.
Yeah.
For example, like I never get a penny of residuals from SAG for that film because New Zealand was not signatory to SAG. It really was like the other end of the planet.
This is a very interesting thing to bring up, one I'd very nearly forgotten about.
I'd almost forgotten.
About Hollywood being on strike. First it was WAG, or the Writers Guild of America, on strike, and then it was SAG, or the Screen Actors Guild. Yes, WAG and SAG are very silly names for your unions, but people have to unionize, it's only fair. But that's a very hot topic, a very complex issue to tackle. And it's key to some of Peter Jackson's work on the Hobbit movies, actually. Though we'll cover those one day. Although it is interesting as New Zealand service productions are rampant. Very similar to Canada, less so in the UK, but you get the idea. America goes to all of these places to film their stuff, as it's cheaper there than to film at home usually. But unless your actors and behind-the-scenes labour, etc. are part of a union, pay can differ and residuals can be an issue, from what I understand. Also insurance as well, as I discuss here with Jim.
I was decently paid for what I did, but like I've never gotten a penny since then.
Mm-hmm.
My point being that, this is long enough ago that like it was off the way off the beaten track. Anyway, that was a long.
Yeah. It's tricky though. I think like since like 2008 odd or a little bit later, like the unions down under are also different as well. I think they've kind of had a bit of a revolution the past few years, and New Zealand, it's one where it's more very much of a film service rather than a film industry.
But also, a big element in booking or, in financing a film, when you get to like names, is that insurance is an issue. Mm-hmm. So like if, I don't know if you remember this, but they made the Twilight Zone movie, an actor was decapitated by.
I've read about this, yeah.
And like that's a nightmare on every level, just as a personal level for people who are trying their best and somebody fucks up and, but that's why also insurance is a big deal in these films, especially for the principals. And I just wonder if doing it in New Zealand had anything to do with like, it was cheaper to insure it down there or, whatever, because it was so far away. Maybe they did something differently. I don't know, but I do know that it's a big deal. And I do think for a guy that was Michael's level at that time to announce that you have a disease like that, that's, you have to assume your career is over. And I mean, I'm not saying that's how it should be, but I mean, it has changed quite a bit. And people like Michael are one reason why it's changed, but it was very different. So anyway, I just wonder if there might be a book or an article in that, William. Get busy.
Yeah, which we will sell for 1 single pence.
Right down here.
Yeah. I think with the Frighteners, a reason that a movie like that would get made down under is probably because, one, I think it's Peter Jackson's project that he wanted to do, and the other is like with the business being like a service for international projects, like, stuff gets made in that part of the world, but it thrives on international stuff coming in, and it's, desirable why you would want that kind of thing. But going back to talking about like Hollywood, but did you see Robert Zemeckis on set at all? So I know Robert only appeared twice during the making of the whole thing.
I have a dim memory of he was there one day and he was on the other side of the room, and I think I might have shook his hand, but that was it.
Uh-huh.
You know, if I did actually meet him, I might be completely misremembering that.
But no, it's okay. It's cool. Because I wondered, I guess, like, because the shoot went on for so long and you have these names and, you know, everybody involved, it's sort of like, well, I wonder if you crossed paths at any point just because of how long it was. But
yeah, sure.
You explained that your role was this and it lasted so long. So
I was also there twice.
Yeah.
I was there 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 weeks the first time and 6 weeks the second, or the reverse.
Yeah, it explains why, you know, stuff like that wouldn't happen, or, you know, didn't happen at least. Yeah. But you remember we're talking about Peter's punk rock cameo. Yeah, there's an expansion on that in the director's cut by a few seconds.
That's all.
So I think Peter was glad that was cut down.
I think I was there that day.
Yeah.
I think I was there that day.
Here's a story quickly, because you know who else was there that day? The local press, who explained that the movie was being made and Peter was directing it, but they didn't explain that was his costume that they were also filming that day.
I was a biker guy and had to spend a day like this. The production decided to bring TV crews onto the set. The TV didn't mention this was my costume.
And he was thinking, oh, my parents are going to see this. And
I was just thinking that.
Weird.
He get a call from his mother. What's wrong? Is something wrong?
Yeah.
You know, why are you doing this? You're embarrassing everybody.
Yeah, or something.
I was thinking, oh no, what are my parents going to think? They're going to see this on TV. They're going to think their son has gone weird.
How am I supposed to take the director seriously?
There's a good little bit. Peter's first feature that he ended up doing, Bad Taste, which I don't know if you're that familiar with his early splatter films.
Yes, I saw. There's the zombie movie that's like in the old mansion or something. It ends in an old mansion.
Yeah, it was. That Brain Dead or Dead Alive, it's called in North America. And
yeah, that was great.
Party's over.
And then I saw the one before that. I don't think I saw Bad Taste. So I saw some of the earlier stuff.
Oh, Bad Taste.
Bad Taste.
Peter's debut. Yeah, it's kind of like Thunderbirds. But it's also kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I'm coming to get you, bastards!
But it's also like The Shining.
Just stop right there. Stop.
But it's also like Evil Dead 2 as well, actually.
Suck my spinning steel, shithead!
So yeah, it showcases his love of cinema. Everyone go watch it in HD. No, they're on YouTube until the rights get, you know, taken back, and we'll get the 4K Blu-rays of those films. The story is Peter's parents, Bill and Joan Jackson. So Billy was named after his grandfather. But yeah, Joan was just talking of Bad Taste. She's like, I didn't think it would be quite so gory as what it is.
I didn't think it would be quite so gory as what it is.
But Peter tells me he knows what he's doing. He's always had a good sense of humor, and that's his forte. Is humor.
He's always had a great sense of humor, and I think that's his forte, is humor, but he's coupled it with horror too.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, making these black
parents.
Black comedy.
Every parent's everywhere.
There's laughs, Mum. With every drop of blood, Mum, there's laughs.
As he said, there's a laugh with every drop of blood, Mum. There's laughs, so that...
But with some reassurance, he's like, but I'm definitely not a violent person myself. I mean, wouldn't want to experience half the stuff that goes on in Bad Taste. So
I'm definitely not a violent person myself. I'd never want to experience half the stuff that goes on in Bad Taste.
That's absolutely true. He's a very gentle, sweet guy.
Yeah, it's very similar to Sam Raimi, you know, like with Brain Dead. It's sort of, because it's very Evil Dead too. Groovy. It kind of solidified his status as like New Zealand's answer to Sam Raimi, and obviously how they've both gone on to do these big IPs like Spider-Man and then the Middle-earth movies. As I'm sure you've followed stuff he's done ever since, so you're just like, whoa, like he's grown so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a funny. I felt bad for Peter knowing about the little cameo that he had, but it was like, oh, it's just funny, it's fine.
Had a blast.
Yeah, there was a special effect bit that they did. This will be a good way to finish this, but it was in the jail cell where your character is attacked by death, basically with the scythe, you know, and they made this rubber dummy of you. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do now. That was funny. Oh my God, hilarious.
It blended well, even though you see it and you're like, oh, it's all plasticky and shiny, and yeah.
I think we got him.
Something they did that I was reading about again in this amazing book, one of my favorites ever, piece of
Hey, are you going to include a link to it down there?
Yeah, no sponsorship, but okay, well, okay, we'll do that. Yeah, everyone read this book. It's amazing. But it reminded me so much, reading the book and watching the films, of they made this rubber puppet. I'll just explain quick, folks. They made this rubber puppet of yourself, Jim Fyfe, for when you get impaled through the head with Death's scythe, and it was inflatable, and they just sucked the air out of it, so it's like a cartoony, like, whoa, like I melted into a puddle of blood. Because
even though I was already dead.
Yeah, I know, it's
that's the real special aspect of this.
Yeah.
Inflate it and then quickly put it onto reverse and suck all the air out, squash the character like a pancake.
Yeah, Pete's vision of like CGI splatter movies or, you know, computer aided splatter never really reached fruition, so maybe we'll do that.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I know Elijah Wood wanted to star in some Bad Taste sequel or something like that after Return of the King. It's like, can we go back and do that? Absolutely, when I've got time. But yeah. But with Lord of the Rings, going back to that, they, Sir Ian Holm, rest in peace, Sir Ian Holm, old Bilbo. I was sad hearing that news, but
he was an amazing actor too. I mean,
so cool. So, you know,
his performance in Alien, incredible. And if you've never seen it, there's a film from the early 80s called Dream Child, which was, I think it was written by Dennis Potter, and it involves like the Jim Henson does like the Muppeting, because it's about Lewis Carroll.
Mm.
He is it's the girl about whom Alice in Wonderland was written. And you see her first as an old lady in the 1930s, but then you flash back to her in the 1870s and 1860s, and her math tutor is Ian Holm, and so it's Lewis Carroll, and he's got this painful stutter, and he's in love with this little girl. Like it's really insane how it sounds like horrible and disgusting, and but like it's because it's about this guy's emotional like state. It's not prurient that way. Anyway, he is amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But no, he's younger in Alien. Watching that, I'm like, it's Bilbo. Like, it's all with Bilbo. Yeah. He's young. Ash! But there's a shot in the Fellowship of the Ring where they're in Rivendell, and Frodo has the ring, and Bilbo just sort of sees him. He's like, and he suddenly lunges to get it, just like this. And that thing is a rubber puppet of Ian that they made.
Is it really?
It is, where he's got the
Right.
frozen on the spot. And they took that puppet, I think this is in the book, they took that puppet, they made a mold of it, and they redid it. They cast that thing in bronze, like it's a full scale thing or something, I think of Ian, whatever. And they gave it to him as a gift of him standing. So yeah, if anyone at Weta Workshop or Weta Digital, whatever, is watching, have you still got that puppet of Jim? Can we get like a bronze puppet of you, like statue of you?
I would love to even just see a picture of the real thing, just like the big balloon, Jim Fyfe balloon. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Because if we do that, we could do it twice. Because we could have you like inflated full size, and we could have you like as like drained like on the floor.
Both aspects.
Yeah, can get that, like here's my centerpiece of the room here. Well, this has been so much fun, Jim.
William, thank you so much. This has really been great because some of the questions you asked brought up things that I completely forgotten about, like the inflatable Jim Fyfe and some of the other stuff. Like I really, I'm bringing back memories for me. So it's been really fun.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. I guess, folks, so I think if people are watching this video, they'll know what the Frighteners is, and they'll have seen yourself as well. But because this is a movie that people do know about. But no, go out and buy the Frighteners, everybody. Rent it or buy it for more than 1 cent. And we'll get the 4K release of the Frighteners. Yeah, to make it a viable piece of entertainment in the 22nd century.
Yes. William, thanks a lot. This was fun.
No worries. Yeah.
I'm going to sign off now. So thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing the finished product.
Sure. Yeah, it's great to meet you. Great to talk. But thanks so much, Jim. I'll see you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye.